Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to Our Weird World, the place where forgotten whispers drift through moonlit forests and ancient mists breathe beneath still waters. Tonight we journey into the Australian brush, where legends older than language echo across marshes and riverbanks. It's a tale that springs from Aboriginal lore and seeped into colonial nightmares. A creature said to scream through the night, lurking beneath the surface with hungry, unblinking eyes. This is the story of the Bunyip, the beast of the Billabong. There's a stretch of land near the Murrumbidgee River in southeastern Australia that no one wants to own. It's not because it's infertile or remote, quite the opposite. The land is lush, its banks tangled with reeds and the sweet earthy scent of eucalyptus. But the locals, they know better. They say the water there breathes, that on still nights when the frogs fall silent and the mist hovers just above the surface, you can hear something move beneath. Not a fish, not a croc, something older, something wrong. Ask any elder from the Wadri Nation and they'll tell you, the Bunyip lives there. Back in the early 1800s, settlers called it Whistler's Hollow, not for birds, but for the eerie, reedy whistles that echoed from the swamps at dusk. Livestock vanished near the edges of the Billabong. Horses refused to cross the water. More than once, a settler was found dead with no clear wounds, just wide, glassy eyes and hands curled as if they tried to claw at something invisible. Then came a case of Thomas Blackstone. A British surveyor assigned to map the region in 1838, Blackstone was a skeptical man, tall, angular, and endlessly practical. Locals warned him not to camp near the water's edge, especially during the new moon. But Blackstone dismissed the tales as Aboriginal superstition. There's no monster hero in his journal, only shadows and the fevered minds of men too long in the sun. He set up camp right next to the largest pool in the swamp, pitching his tent beneath a gum tree and preparing to spend the night alone. What happened next comes only from the journal. Blackstone never made it back. Weeks later, a search party found Blackstone's abandoned camp. The tent was shredded from the inside, and deep grooves scarred the muddy earth, like claws to drag something or someone into the water. The journal lay nearby, half buried in mud. The last entry read, "Something launches me from the water. I hear it breathing. At first I thought it a log, but it moved. Eyes like coal, voice like wind in a tunnel. It spoke, but not in words, in feeling. It's hungry, and I think it remembers being worshipped." The journal was turned over to the authorities. Parts were dismissed as hallucinations of a man with a fever or madness. But the surveyor's compass and boots were never found. Just the impression of his knees in the soft earth, leading right to the water's edge and stopping. The Aboriginal people never needed proof. They'd known of the Bunyip for generations. In some stories, it's a spirit of vengeance, born from a wronged ancestor drowned in a dreamtime. In others, it's a creature that guards sacred waters, punishing those who come too close. Descriptions vary. Sometimes it's sleek with the body of a seal and the fangs of a dog. Other times, it's tall and ape-like, with glowing eyes and a voice that mimics the cries of children. But one thing stays the same across all visions. The Bunyip comes when the world forgets to respect the land. One old uncle, a Wadri elder, said, "The Bunyip is not an animal. It is a punishment. You take too much for disrespect, the Bunyip will take back." In 1903, a young schoolteacher named Eliza Wakefield moved to a cottage near Whistler's Hollow. She wasn't one to believe in fairy tales, but she adored local folklore and often collected stories from the Aboriginal children in her class. They warned her, "Don't go near the water at night." She smiled and nodded politely. One afternoon, as the class let out, she wandered down to the edge of the Billabong with a notebook in hand. She wanted to sketch the landscape, capture the way that ghost guns reflected on the dark, still surfaces. Eliza never returned. Her satchel was found a week later, floating upright in the center of the water. Inside was her notebook, meticulously dry, as if placed there gently. The final page was a sketch of a creature, long neck, mouth gaping open in a scream, and no eyes. Underneath it was one word hastily scrawled, "Awake." You would think that in the age of satellites and smartphones, the Bunyip would be forgotten. But the legends persist, updated perhaps, but no less chilling. Campers still report strange sounds from the swamps, but bubbling growls or drains gurgling in reverse. Some hear voices calling for help, always from the center of the water. A wildlife photographer named Jamie Clark claimed to have seen it in 1996. He was camped with friends near the Murrumbidgee, hoping to capture shots of nocturnal animals. Around 2 a.m., he heard something large splash into the water. Thinking it was a platypus, he rushed down to the shore. He described seeing a massive shape rise from the black water. It had leathery, oil-slick skin and what looked like gills fluttering along its neck. It turned to him slowly, and for a moment he felt rooted to the spot, like the creature reached into his mind and held him still. Jamie fled, but not before his camera snapped a single photo. The picture, often dismissed as doctored, was a ripple in the water, and what might be a single eye reflecting in the flash like a distant glowing pearl. Clark quit photography after that and became a recluse. When asked years later if he thought it was a real animal, he said no, it wasn't from here. It was ancient and it hated me. There's a theory among cryptozoologists and Aboriginal spiritual leaders alike. The Bunyip isn't just a creature, but a manifestation. But when sacred places are disturbed, when forests are stripped, waters polluted, or old stories forgotten, the land fights back. It becomes something. Something that lives between the reeds. Something that remembers every trespass. It's no coincidence that most sightings happen after a drought, or when a new development threatens a wetland, as if the Bunyip stirs only when the world is wounded. Maybe it's not one creature, but many. Maybe it has always been there, shifting its form like the wind in the trees. Or maybe it's what waits in the dark when we forget to fear the wild. One thing is for certain. When you're deep in the bush and the water goes quiet, and even the insects fall silent, don't lean over the edge to look. As we leave you here, staring into the stillness of ancient waters, remember this. Some legends or warnings whispered down through generations, not just to entertain, but to protect. The Bunyip may never be caught on camera or described in a textbook, but its presence lives on, in vanishing ripples, in half-finished journals, in the eyes of those who dare to camp too close. So, if you're ever in the outback, near a quiet billabong, and you hear a voice that sounds like your own, calling from the water, or ripples moving in your direction, don't answer and back away quickly. This has been Our Weird World. If you've enjoyed the stories, please share, like, and subscribe to our channel for more content. Your support helps us keep these legends from slipping beneath the surface of time. Until next time, stay curious, and never forget what might be watching from the water's edge.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.